Well, here we are. It's another Thursday, and we are going to be talking about one of my favorite things, and it's probably one of the most overlooked marketing and promotional tools out there. And guess what? It doesn't cost a dime. Kelly, what am I talking about?
Podcasts.
Podcasts? Yeah, you know it. Podcast interview tips, and I'm going to tell you how to get booked today, so stay
tuned.
Welcome to Self-Publishing with Dale
and Kelly.
And if you want to publish your message, build your brand, and fulfill your ambition, make sure that you subscribe and turn your notifications on so you don't miss a single live broadcast every Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And before we jump on into things, today's episode is brought to you by none other than this woman right over here on my left-hand side.
Oh, it's me again.
Yay!
For the latest and greatest in Crate Space merch and KDP print, make sure to subscribe to YouTube by going to selfpublishingwithdale.com/Kelly.
Yes, and guys, don't forget to join us this next Thursday. That's at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're going to be talking about the 5 profitable no-content niches. Boy, I tell you, we struck a nerve. A lot of people really dug the content. So we're going to tell you some of our insights. So we're going to specifically talking about 5 lucrative niches that will drive out the profits. We don't want that to do that. So make sure you tune in this next week at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Want to say that today's show is a viewer's choice selection by it was from Keith Wheeler. Keith actually had sent in a question and said pretty much, hey, would love to know, you guys are always getting these interviews and how are you doing that? And we want to kind of give you a little bit of insights because I've had quite a few interviews. You've had a lot lately. You just ran them in.
A few.
So if you are very interested in also submitting any other ideas, we're welcoming all viewers' choices. Now, bear in mind that I get a lot of feedback from the viewers, such as yourself. If I don't answer your email, my apologies. I try to kind of give a little bit of suspense and let you know at the last minute if we've selected your idea. So if I don't email you back, trust me, I'm getting your emails. We are very selective about what we're going to do. So next week is just building off of the success of the couple weeks ago when we did the no content books.
That was last week.
Was that last week?
Yeah,
wow.
I think, yeah. And yeah, Kevin, it is next Thursday.
So that will be next Thursday. But I have very important news, and it's regarding this guy. If you guys ever hear the raw dog thing, I actually going to be having a special live broadcast this next Tuesday. That's Tuesday at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm going to be talking to Scott J. Marshall II. Go ahead, press the button. Raw dog. So that is going to be March the 5th, June the 5th at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's this coming Tuesday. You'll want to come over and join us. He's going to tell you guys how he grew within a year. Correct me if I'm wrong here on this one, Dog Dad. Scott grew a Facebook group of 15,000 members. And we're talking like, he put me into the group, Kelly. I had to shut off notifications. His group is insanely engaged. Like, this group is awesome. And it's a sense of community too. So I peeked in on some of the posts, and I'm telling you, if you guys want to see how to grow a huge Facebook community, tune in this next Tuesday at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're going to go 100% live, and we're going to set up, you ready for this? We're going to set up a community for you guys, finally, on Facebook that everybody is going to be welcome to. So I know I've got the DIY publishing community, but that's only for students. But for this one, we're actually going to have one, and we're going to build that this next week. So without any further ado, let's get right to the program. And we're going to be talking about podcast interview tips, how to get booked for a show. How could I forget before we go anywhere? Who's in the chat today?
If you've been here a while, hi. You can scroll up.
Yeah.
Monique, Kevin, thank you for not taking a nap. Mark Brownless, Keith, Raw Dog, Sean Wheeler.
Good to see you, Sean.
And if
Marco's in the house. Hey, Marco. I have big news coming about Marco here. I just went through his AMS course. Friggin' awesome. That's all I'm going to say here is stay tuned. I've given you kind of a clue, everybody, but I'm bringing Marco to the show, and he's got something to share with you that's going to send your eyebrows and leave you wanting for more.
Well, hello, Jude, the reluctant introvert. Good to see you. Monique, the usual suspects are in. And New Book Creations, hi.
Good to see you, New Book Creations. Actually, I've seen New Book Creations over in your channel.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's good. I'm glad to see you guys going over there.
And Ava, how in the good name of publishing can we forget Ava?
Yes. Teeple-poo. I love the name. Digging it.
I thought it said triple poo for a second.
I've had a triple poo before. It was a pretty good day. Pretty good day. Now, Feast, it's good to see you there. Keith Wheeler, I think we already said something. I'm going to say hi anyways. Keith, it's good to see you. The whole family's in the house. Hey, John Wasser, he's popping in. We meet again. Of course we do. All right. Hey, so I'm not getting trolled in the comments later on for not getting right to the point. Let's get to the point. I'm going to double back around to you guys. Please keep chatting amongst yourselves. And by the way, Mark Brownless, you get a banana sticker. Just wanted to put that out there. You thought I forgot. Remember, folks, show up 15 minutes early before all the shows, and we'll talk to you guys inside the chat. So, in any event, podcast interview tips, how to get booked for a show. Now, I'm going to just say that right now. We're going to be talking about interviews in general. Okay, so Kelly might talk about some of the interviews that she had where she got it on YouTube. I'm going to talk about podcasts and video interviews, but otherwise, we're going to be doing pretty much both, covering both of those things here. So bear with me here, folks. Podcast interview tips. Why podcasts, Kelly?
Audio is huge and it's growing. If Gary Vee says it's good, it's good. You want me to read them all?
Let's get it.
People by people. If you see your friend's book on the shelf that you heard on a podcast, you're probably going to buy it. So people buy from strangers, but people love supporting other people.
Yeah, I just really think it comes down to it. We connect face to face. And that's one of the things I always tell people is if you can do a brand that has this pretty mug, people are going to be more susceptible to buying it from you. I got to say this, that it's crazy. My YouTube channel has been one of those things that people buy more of my fitness books, but I'm teaching self-publishing. But for some reason, people still continue to buy the workout books. I think it's because of that face-to-face interaction. So people buy people.
You take
it's a wider reach and distribution with podcasts. You've got iTunes, you got Stitcher, Google Play. Google Play is one of my favorites. The list goes on. TuneIn, Podbean, Messy Bun. I think they're going by Messy now.
Messy Bun.
Messy Bun. Yeah, I haven't heard Messy Bun yet.
No.
There's so many, and self-publishing with Dale is a prime example. In fact, I know people in the live chat right now are like, "Bro, what's he talking about?" But there are actually people listening to this on SoundCloud, or they're listening to it on Stitcher or iTunes or iHeartRadio. And by the way, kudos, thank you very much, all you that are listening in there. You can see it has such a huge reach. And these days, it's super easy. In fact, I tell you, it's completely automated that I do a lot of this video over to audio, all from the help with Ava, but she literally only has to do just one step and it shoots out to dozens of platforms. So the reach is incredible.
And it's cheap or next to no money. You just got to spend time finding them. And from my experience, it's not just audio. There's also video involved.
It's video, kind of like what we said at the very beginning, a little bit of a disclaimer that there are actually some podcasts that are video, such as this one right here. Another great example, Mark Dawson of the Self-Publishing Formula. He actually does his podcast video-wise on YouTube, and then he repurposes that stuff over onto places like iTunes. So you can see that podcasts, it's just lucrative. It doesn't have to be just audio. It can be video as well. So the definition's definitely changing. Here's the deal. I think a lot of people, unfortunately, go, yeah, podcasts don't work. I reached out to 50 podcasts. They didn't have me on their thing. They didn't return my email. Okay, listen. First and foremost, you gotta approach it with tact, poise, and professionalism. What's in it for me? WIIFM. Always remember that tact. You don't want to go in and say, what's in it for me? I can't be Dale reaching out to, say, the Self-Publishing Formula podcast and go, Mark, you got to have me on your show. I'm really great. I mean, it's no big deal. Obviously, he's not going to have it. But if I were to say to him, what's in it for him, that's going to mean much more than if you were to beat him up. I mean, do you have anything to add to that on that?
It's their house. It's not your house.
Yeah, that's the best way to put it. Can you just go open the door and bite yourself on in? No. You need to kind of, wine and dine some people and really get it to where you build a relationship. Crazy thing,
and
right?
a real, don't be fake. Don't be a fake snob.
No fakers.
People can sense those a mile away.
Exactly. So, how will you promote them? That's going to be the big thing. How are you going to get your appearance on there? This is something that I assure people. If you get me on your show, I'm going to promote the heck out of it. I'm going to be telling people, I'm going to be on the Word Slinger podcast with Kevin Tumlinson. By the way, cheap plug, love me some Kevin Tumlinson. I'm going to be over on, I just got off a podcast interview on the onlinesuccessjourney.com, hosted by, her name was Patience. I'm going to get out there and I'm going to promote that, like the Travel Couple podcast. Kelly and I were on that, and we've been promoting that as well, correct?
Yes.
So you got to kind of go into this knowing that this is not a set and forget thing. You need to provide them value. What value do you bring? And do you have an audience that you can bring to the table? Do you have a following? Even if it's 6 people, for crying out loud, just be straightforward. Always, if you don't have a large following, if you don't have 4,200 subscribers on YouTube, or you don't have 5,000 on Instagram, it's okay. Tell them you're going to make up for it in marketing and promotion and getting it out there, and what is going to be your actual game plan.
But I got to add, the 3 that I was on,
yeah.
I was never asked that ever. Like, I was in
crazy, right?
I was in my bubble for so long. When I first started my 3 interviews, I did 3 interviews in like 4 or 5 days, back to back to back. I barely had a YouTube. I was just starting my social media consistently. So just because he said that, don't make it scary if you don't have anything, because it's okay. It'll be fine.
Yes. And this is right here, this hashtag. Everybody do me a favor. Get this hashtag. Get it trending. Hashtag no fake snobs. All right? No fake snobs. Eileen Smith, I see you right there. That is right on point. Don't be fake, If you're not going to be in it to be sincere and authentic, people can sense that from a mile away. If you're just like, I'm just trying to get a podcast interview. Hey, how's it going? I've got this and this following, and I'm going to be the next best thing to sliced bread on your channel. In any event, so preparation's key here, everybody. Set expectations. Now, this is not just from your standpoint. Find out what it is from the podcast host standpoint. What kind of things can you expect on there? I typically will try to ask people, what can I expect? Do I need to be on Skype? Do I need Zoom? Are we just doing audio? Are we doing video? What are all the things that I need for this? If you aren't like Kelly and I, where we have lavalier microphones, a good camera, things like that, or even great internet, find out if that's going to be a problem for the podcast host. If you're just using your mobile phone to kind of get on the podcast, say, hey, I'm only dealing with the mobile phone. Is this going to be all right? Set expectations. That way, when you're coming to your interview, they know that, if you're dialing in from a Starbucks, the Wi-Fi is not going to be the greatest. There might be some interruptions. So it is good to know. So you want real snobs. Teeple Poo, you're awesome, dude. Hashtag we want real snobs. Get that one trending. Seriously though, hashtag no fake snobs. All right. Find out any questions. Why is this important, Kelly?
I don't know if anyone's like me, but I'm not good at spur of the moment, think good answer off the top of my head. So it's going to benefit them more to have questions prepared so you can prepare.
Yeah, and this was actually something that you and I had learned over at Vid Summit through Owen Video, aka Owen Himsath. Owen had suggested, he does his own podcast, very successful. And what he actually told me kind of changed my mindset and how I did my interviews was come prepared. Get those questions ready. So if you're a podcast host and you're listening to this, do your guest a huge favor. Get the questions laid out. Christmas Abbott, she was a fitness, I wouldn't say fitness guru, fitness expert.
She's a guru?
Yeah, a guru. There we go. So Christmas, she actually came to my other podcast with Bootstrap Businessmen, and it kind of threw my co-host and I off. They're like, list of questions? We just ask stuff. And they were like, it wasn't acceptable because Christmas needed to come to the table knowing what she was going to deal with. So try to find out those questions ahead of time, even if you can just get a good general idea. For me, I can just rip and rap about anything, just get me on there and I'm ready to kind of go. But you never know what's going to come out my mouth if you don't give me the questions ahead of time. All right, prepare an introduction. Get some kind of a headshot, bio, and relevant links. You got to kind of get that stuff for your host. So that way they're not kind of going, welcome to the show, Dale. No. They need to kind of have some kind of an introduction. And I always try to shoot for about 100 to 300 words. You don't want to go too crazy on it. Be like having a full bio. I've had some interviews with people where they send me like a 5-page dissertation about their background. Give me the Reader's Digest version, like the synopsis. Give me the Cliff Notes version. Do you agree with me on that?
Now, when you say introduction, are you saying prepare something for the host to read on your behalf? Or if someone says, tell me about yourself?
That as well. Actually, that brings up a good point. For me, what I'm talking about is the bio. Now you're talking about an introduction, so go ahead and expand on that.
See, I was never asked to provide any of that.
Really?
But people are like, well, tell me about yourself. So it's kind of like a job interview, but not really. You gotta, have something generally prepared in your head.
Yeah. Yeah, so for instance, you could probably pull a string, on me here. Most times whenever people, say, okay, tell me a little bit about yourself, I go into what got me into the business, and I try to keep it as brief as possible within, a minute to 5 minutes at best. It just depends on the amount of time that you have on the specific podcast, but I'll typically kind of go into, this all began back in 2013 when I was working my job and I wanted to. Think about your little backstory and what brings you to their podcast. Find out ahead. That's the other thing about expectations is find out ahead how much time you actually have. So here's the big question. Ask it, Kelly.
How do you find these podcasts anyway?
How do you find them anyway? Well, I don't know where to start. And that was my biggest issue is I don't know where to start. Okay, first of all, take a deep breath. We got you covered because we got 7 tips that are going to get you guys going. So you've got all of these, the basic information, and load up any kind of questions you have within the chat. And we're going to go ahead and try to address those here as the show, later on into the show. So here's the deal. Podcast interview tip number 1. This is, I swear I'm not talking down to you. Google search. Google is going to solve a lot of things. And we can go ahead and throw YouTube in there as well because you're going to find some podcasts. So for instance, I was having a great conversation with my best bud, Scott J. Marshall II. And Scott and I were talking about podcasts this past week. And I was like, dude, just go into Google, type in dog podcasts. And lo and behold, boom, it literally was like, at the first couple of articles was like the 7 best podcasts devoted to the dog owner. I was like, boom. There you go. It literally is just so simple. There's already things done for you. So think about your niche and put it in there. And you can just, something as simple as a YouTube search. If you're self-publishing books and you're a self-publishing entrepreneur, you could go, hey, Dale, which by the way, this is not an open invite to everybody to send me your resumes for an interview. You can go, hey, Dale, I've got such and such book coming out and such date. I've got a great following. I'm going to promote it this way, blah, blah, blah. Great. YouTube, awesome. They're very responsive. And if they're not responding to your comments within their videos.
But also be creative. Like, for example, if I'm looking for podcasts, I might type in women entrepreneurs. But that's not my niche. Yeah. So try to find those like little niche markets that you might fit into. And you might actually be able to get a podcast easier. because it might be hard for people to fill that niche.
Yeah, yeah. Number 2, podcast sites. Now this one, this is going to be very broad. There's going to be some premium sites where you got to pay money, and there's some sites that don't cost a dime. Podcast Guests is one of the ones I've had experience with. I have my own profile, and I actually put the link down inside the description below. I put that just before the show started, so if you didn't see it before, it's probably there now, or you got to hit refresh. But my profile's on there. I pay $20 per month, a little over $20 per month, and I actually put up all my information there. I've managed to secure about 6 podcast bookings through there over the past few months, so about 2 per month. That's getting about 10 per appearance, so I'm pretty happy with that. And it seems the longer I've been on there, the more traction I start to get. But the nice thing about Podcast Guests is you can just subscribe to their email. So, for instance, tell your experience.
That's what I have. I don't want to spend money for this. Are you kidding me? So I just get an email every single Monday, and I make sure it doesn't go to spam, and it doesn't, and I'm good to go.
Yeah, so that's the nice thing is things like Podcast Guests. You just sign up for the email list. They send you out information about podcasts that are looking for guests, and they also have guests looking for podcasts, which I was in a couple of their emails. But that's kind of a way of thinking outside the box. Podcast Guests is not by any means the only one that's out there. Just be aware that quite a few of them are going to ask for a pretty penny. You just got to think about what's within your budget and what you're willing to invest. If you're like Kelly and you don't want to bother with it, sign up for an email list and just get the heads up. So, any event. So, number 2.
Ask a friend. Or if you've ever been on any podcasts, ask for referrals or recommendations.
There you go.
Because, as we said again, people buy people. So, people will love to refer you friends, family, previous hosts.
Yeah. So, a couple of my good friends, I'm going to go ahead and give them all shout outs right now. Johnny Andrews of Author Platform Rocket. I've got him booked on some other things. Kevin Tomlinson, I've got him booked on it from Drafted Digital. By the way, hey, what's up, Kevin? That's the second time I've had that. Do I deserve a banana sticker?
No.
Oh.
Don't inflate your ego.
I've gotten Emeko Osai booked on some other ones. Nigel Wingate from Power Pack Success. So these all come through referrals, and one of the beautiful things is, like, for instance, as soon as I just got off this podcast with Patience, I'd mentioned Johnny Andrews within the interview, and she's like, I got to get this guy on. If he's as cool as you say he is, we're going to get him on there. So referrals, recommendations. So one of the things, if I wasn't rushed to kind of come over here, I probably would have said to Patience, hey, this was a great podcast. I really enjoyed it. Do you have any recommendations or any other podcasts that I can check out that are in line with yours? So it's that simple. It's an old sales technique, by the way. You enjoyed this so much, who do you think would enjoy it as well? All right, so tip number 4, join a community. And here's the killer thing. You ready for that?
Contribute.
Contribute, yes.
I think that's possibly how I landed at least one of mine, but I just asked. But
okay.
Now I'm contributing more, and people saw I was on a podcast, so it makes you look like more of an authority.
Right.
So
give a little bit more of a background on this, because I know you had been with this group for a while, hadn't you?
Off and on.
Off and on?
When we were doing the whole Kindle thing and the whole FBA thing, It wasn't aligning with that, so I really didn't participate much. But it's amazing the information, when you get a community together, the information people will share, podcast or no podcast. So, don't go in it just to be a podcast desk. Please, no. But go in it to, get some connections, and you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah. And you don't need to go, ape on everything. You don't need to be liking every single last comment, obsessing over it and such. Authenticity, okay? Just go in there when you can. And, if you're not a big fan of, say, Facebook, you don't have to do Facebook. There's communities and hashtags, style communities and small groups that gather together over on Twitter. Twitter's, one of my favorite sources. So just think about that. Join a community and contribute consistently. That's going to be the key. At any rate, tip number 5, promote your previous guest appearances. This works 2 ways. First of all, 1, if you're going out and promoting the heck out of this podcast, so for instance, Patience Online Success Journey podcast, I'm going to keep saying that over and over. I'm going to get out there, I'm going to push that. Well, what do you think's the likelihood that she's going to want to bring me back? I've actually had, for instance, let me think of her name. Her name is Wynn Kelly Charles, I think is her name. And she runs the Butterflies of Wisdom podcast. She tried to bring me back within a year. I was like, no. I've got my limitations. I try to, give it about a year so I can continue to promote the podcast. So apparently she was pretty happy with my appearance. Not only that, but also the actual promotion of that specific appearance. But here's the beauty of it. If somebody is looking at you and they go, man, they promote the heck out of that podcast, what do you think the likelihood is of that person reaching out to you?
Probably pretty good.
Probably pretty good. They're going to be like, that person promotes the heck out of their appearances. I want to have that guy. So there's a good reason why I've actually had some repeat guests before, because they promote the heck out of their appearances over here on my channel. So fun fact. There you go. Tip number 6. This one's yours. In-person networking. It just comes back to the community aspect.
You never know who you're going to meet or come across. And once again, don't be fake. What was that hashtag no fake snobs? Don't be that. However, it's just about getting to know people. That's just the bottom line. Meetup.com is good for that. No, it's not a dating site.
no, it's not. It's not. Meetup is actually not a dating. I'm sure you probably could use it for that, but there's so many ways that you can get out there and network, and it's so funny. I think that I did a lot of networking out in Arizona, and inevitably at the networking meetings, I almost always found at least one podcaster, one person who at least podcasted. And I'm going to tell you this is, if you're new to this business and you're like, I don't know how to promote, I can't afford it or whatever, find that person, even if they have one freaking follower on their podcast, and do it. I mean, I think that Gary Vaynerchuk even puts it that way. Like, you're never too big for any one small podcast, right?
Yeah, he does small podcasts to this day, I think.
Yep. So, don't ever turn down any of those opportunities. So what are your podcast interview tips? What are some things that we might have missed? Oh, by the way, I've got one extra bonus tip, because of course that wouldn't be one of our shows without that bonus tip. Do you have a podcast and do you need guests? I am actually, listen, any moderators that are here, I know that Ava's hanging out, Dog Dad's hanging out. I'm going to say this. You can promote your podcast in the comments. Drop a link. We'll approve those things. And if you're watching this on the replay, go ahead, promote your podcast. Tell us what your podcast is, who your audience is, and how people can get a hold of you. And that way, you guys are going to be able to get tons of information. So those of you that subscribe to this channel, you get the nice little bonus of actually getting some podcasts you can get a hold of. I've already dropped a couple of names for podcasts. I don't think I need to repeat them at this point, but there's so many out there. Get out there and just do it. Now I've got a 7th one. I want to jump over into the chat really fast. Kelly.
I guess I'm jumping into the chat. Eileen says she started a podcast meetup and met a ton of great folks. So yeah, if you're on meetup.com, that's a good idea. Don't just search your niche. Maybe search a podcast meetup. So, or even podcast Facebook group or podcast whatever.
Yeah, even Eileen says right here, she podcasts Facebook group, and they meet once a week for a podcast interview post. Another great one, Ava dropped it in there. Ava actually has her own podcast, and a lot of people actually, a few of the subscribers and viewers actually really enjoy it. So if you haven't had the opportunity, make sure you click that link in the chat, or you can go to heyoava.com/candidcashflow to check hers on out. There are so many other places that you can check out as well. Raw Dog.
I don't think there's any questions.
No questions, concerns. Hashtag no fake slobs, was it?
No fake
we're going to go with slobs. Snobs. There we go. I got to remember those hashtags. So in any event, one last one before we start to wrap things up here, gang. Do definitely appreciate you popping in. Remember, okay, that today's post has been brought to you by
Kelly Publish. If you want to get some weekly videos on CreateSpace, Amazon merch, and KDP print, head over to selfpublishingwithdell.com/Kelly for all the latest videos.
Catch us this next Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's on June the 7th. That's going to be 5 profitable, no content niches. We're going to tell you guys a little bit. In fact, actually, we were kind of really on the fence about this. We're like, do we really want to reveal all these secrets here? And you know what? We said, for our audience, absolutely, we're going to do that. So definitely want to thank everybody for tuning in. Don't forget, special live interview with Scott J. Marshall II. He's going to tell us a little bit more about his 15,000 member Facebook group that's fully engaged, and he's going to show us exactly how to put together the group and what it takes to get to that specific point. So I cannot wait to have Scott on the show. You guys don't want to miss out on that. In order to get that, you're going to want to subscribe to this channel, turn your notifications on, and mark it on your calendar for 1:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, our last point of the day. Tip number 7, get social. We kind of leaned on that just a little bit.
I mean, yeah, just most importantly, get consistent. But Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, I guess you could even say YouTube too, kind of.
YouTube, yeah. YouTube is a social tool. In fact, I've made connections. Mecca, let's see here, Julie Broad, I met over here on YouTube. Tim Knox, met on YouTube. But I also, one of my favorite tools, and I think Eva even said this inside the chat, is Twitter. Twitter is phenomenal. I actually made my contact with Lulu and got to know them. I contacted, let's see here, Drafted Digital, Kevin Tumlinson. That's where we met up, because he, I put down like a specific comment or whatever, and he gave a snarky reply, and we've become, you know, pretty good buds since. So yes. Twitter is an amazing place. Just find what resonates most with you. So if Twitter's not your thing, and Facebook's not your thing, and Instagram's not your thing, maybe Reddit is your thing. Get out there and get consistent. Social. Yeah, and be consistent. That's the really cool thing. Here's a little tip, a little bit of a bonus on this one right here. People love when you share their stuff. I'm going to say that right now. I got connected with a very big viral star, Ed Bassmaster. Ed does those videos, the psh videos. And the funny thing is, I went and shared his Twitch broadcast and said, love this guy, whatever. He ended up following and retweeting me. So this goes to show you that sometimes if you just share something, you're going to grab someone's attention. And so if you find a podcast, you enjoy that podcast, it resonates with your message and your niche, share it through your social media, your preferred social media outlet, and you may actually end up getting a great connection in the process. So,
John Wasser.
Yeah.
I would just have, your question was about getting on podcasts, and he wants to know any open spots. How about he just send you an email?
Absolutely. If some people are interested, I don't want to discourage anybody. Right now, interviews are kind of at a standstill. I don't know. I'm saying this as I'm going to bring Scott here on the show, but you can definitely reach out to me at selfpublishingwithdale.com, or even comment in the videos. If you happen to be catching this on the podcast, you'll definitely want to use the email option, because if you put a comment on any of the podcasts, I may not get those.
And this is kind of random, but Keith wants to know if we're having an after show. I say we do it for like 15 minutes.
We're going to have an after show. We're going to get ready to disconnect here in just about 1 minute. So if you enjoyed this video, make sure that you click the
thumbs up, share it with anyone who would like it, and we'll see you in the after show.
It's been Self-Publishing with Dale.
We'll see you soon.
You forgot the Kelly part.
And Kelly.